Hi, everybody. My name is Chris White. I'm Vice Chancellor for Workforce Development and Upward Mobility from SUNY, the State University of New York. Really excited to be joined today by my amazing colleague, Denise Sieski, who's going to introduce herself in just another minute or so. This office that we now oversee is about 9 months old at the SUNY system level. And we are really excited about this office because what it has done is brought together a lot of different programs and areas that were being really successful, but often in their own islands. So we brought them together underneath this incredible workforce development umbrella, and we are now starting to do really great things together and very intentionally. So today, what we want to talk about, and I'll start pulling up some slides here. Today, we really want to talk about is how at the system level at SUNY, we are bringing together all these different areas and working together to ensure that we're aligned, where overlaps exist, that we're being really strategic about who we're serving and how we're doing that, ultimately to help all of our incredible campuses all across the network and the partners out there that are connected to all of our campuses and system to thrive. So with that, I'm going to turn things over to Denise, who can talk a little more about our system as it exists today. Denise.
Thanks so much, Chris. Happy to meet everybody virtually. I'm Denise Sieski. I am the Assistant Vice Chancellor for Workforce Development, as Chris said, in our new Office of Workforce Development and Upward Mobility. I did come from a campus, so it was great to have campus experience at one of our community colleges. And now to come and look at this from a system-wide perspective has been great to be able to support all of the campuses, which I'm going to tell you a little bit about our system. We are the largest comprehensive system in the United States. We have 64 institutions comprised of anything that you could possibly imagine. We have a lot of online learning. We have 30 community colleges. We have technology campuses. We have university colleges, university centers, research universities, and we also have 3 hospitals. And as Chris always likes to say, at our Maritime University, we also own a ship. So we serve nearly 1.3 million students, and about 600,000 of them are in credit-bearing coursework. And I'm going to talk a little bit later about some of our non-credit coursework as well. So again, really covering all gamuts that we can. As you can see, we have coverage across the entire state and really looking to meet the students where they are. So going forward, talking about our students, we want to really help individuals meet their goals in whatever it is that we can do to help them. So we work with them on, they currently have a job, but they need some additional skills to move forward within that career. Their employer wants them to learn a little bit more about Excel. Well, we can help them with that. They have some college, but no degree. Well, let's have them come back. Let's make it not so scary to come back and really, as an adult, try to meet some of the goals that you have. Maybe you want your kids to get experience and exposure to campus. Let's send them to a Kids on Campus and let them see that, again, they can be a part of a college community and then help them continue on through that pathway. And then as they continue their path, they get a degree. Let's have them come back. Let's any of these folks, we want to bring them back to our campus to maybe, again, get some of that professional development they need, or maybe they want to learn to play a musical instrument, learn how to cook, learn how to do some craft programs. We can really meet everyone where they are as to whatever their goals are in their lives and at any stage in their life. So as Chris said, we have a newer office. So one of the things that I'm very excited about is I worked when I first came from that community college campus, I worked in SUNY's Office of Community Colleges. And now I had colleagues that were doing workforce development initiatives across the entire office. And then also across the entire system. Some were in the provost's office, some were in the another office within our system. And what we really wanted to do is bring all these different activities together. So this is a really quick highlight, and we're going to get into much more detail about what is in our new Workforce Development and Upward Mobility office. Experiential learning and internships. These were within our provost office. Obviously, we still work very closely with our provost office because a lot of these activities tied to credit, but we wanted to really ensure that we could work together with our internships, our experiential learning, our employer initiatives, and those also now tied to our small business development centers. These are located across the state. I'm going to talk about them, and they work with employers on lots of different initiatives that they might have. Our educational opportunity centers and Attain Labs work with people that are looking to get some initial skills to get a job. Registered apprenticeship, you have a job, so you have an employer or partner, and you're looking to get skilled up to bring some additional skills to that. We just talked about upskilling, but also we have micro-credentials, short-term programs. We're going to talk about a little bit more in detail. Those were, again, in our provost office. We work very closely about bringing them together. And again, the employers are really integral to everything for workforce development. So how do we ensure that we all have a good sense of what's happening across our system? So I'm now going to dig into some of these a lot more in detail, and then Chris is going to touch on some of them as we go further into it. So the first thing is our internships and experiential learning. Our chancellor had a great initiative, and that we are looking to really bring to fruition, that every student in an undergraduate program will have some sort of an experience before they graduate. Obviously, a very lofty goal. We wanted to really kind of dig into that. What are some of these different types of experiences that somebody could have? We've just hired somebody that's going to really focus on that. Very excited. He's hit the ground running, is meeting with lots of our campuses to really get a good sense of level set what's currently happening across our campuses. Obviously, with the number of different programs that I talked about, the differences between all of our colleges, our university centers, the opportunities really range and vary. And somebody that is maybe in a doctoral program would have a very different experience than maybe a mother of three at a community college. But we want to make sure they all can really understand what it means to work in the type of job that they're looking to get post-graduation. So there's internships. Gold standard obviously would be a 4 credit and paid. That would be great. We certainly have interns that are getting programs that are not for credit. Maybe they're not paid, but how can we make sure that that it's a really quality experience? In the healthcare, there's certainly clinical placements, practicums across the board. But how do we make sure we're capturing that and really understanding what's happening in all the different settings in all of our different campuses? Capstone projects generally involve working very closely with an employer and understanding really in depth what it means to happen at those different employers. That maybe is one that they might get hired at after, or that they can take that experience and put on their resume as they're interviewing for their job. Service learning, community-based learning, civic engagement, certainly incredibly important. We want our students to be out not only on their college campus, but working within their community. That's giving them, again, that type of experience, which is something that they can really take to and put in place what they're learning in the classroom out into the job community. Field study abroad, something that's really important. So bringing that global perspective also back here. So as you can see, our experiences are very broad ranging. We want to make sure they're all quality, that they're all bringing something of value to the students and also value to the partners that they're working with. So putting all these pieces together is what we're trying to bring here to our new office. So going forward, we've talked about employers here. We also want to help students and or business owners get the skills that they need to grow in an entrepreneurial environment. So our small business development centers, you may have them in your communities as well. These are federal programs that we are really overseeing here across the entire state. You can see, again, have really good state coverage. We have 20 official regional centers, but we also have 70 satellite locations. Again, wanting to bring the work to the students and or in this case, entrepreneurs, wherever they are. So these satellite locations might be in a chamber of commerce, might be somewhere else again in the community, so a student might not have to travel quite as far to meet with a counselor within that. We have served over 580,000 New Yorkers across, again, the entire state, which has led to an $8.7 billion direct impact, again, to the businesses within those local communities. We work with the small businesses. We help them with business planning. We help them with financial planning. Maybe they need to get a loan to grow that business. I went to an event recently, and it was really exciting. It was a student who had been on her college campus. In this case, it was Buffalo State. She had a degree. She was connected to that campus. She started a business. She came back to that campus to meet with the Small Business Development Center to gain some additional skills. They really helped her grow and helped really to highlight the work that she was doing. She could now also give back to some students that were coming up and help them understand what it meant to really gain the skills not only in the classroom, but then further in this Small Business Development Center. So in addition to the classes and the courses that you might get one-on-one with a counselor, those classes are also held online. Maybe you need to learn about the new things that are changing in terms of tariffs because something that's coming in might affect your production line. So we can also offer courses and webinars and those kind of things to students and business owners through our small business development centers. So moving on, we have educational opportunity centers. Again, statewide, these are located, we have 12 locations across the state, and we offer, again, a really broad ranging opportunity for an individual that wants to get some of the basic skills to get a job. So these are generally folks that don't have a job, maybe don't have a specific career knowing exactly what they want to do. Maybe they need to change careers. Maybe they're working in retail and they want to really work more in a professional type of environment. Maybe it's somebody that is new to English and needs some English for speakers of other languages. Maybe they don't have their high school diploma yet and really want to get that GED, get the training that they need to move into a more self-sustaining job, career development job. We have our academic trainings. We have truck driver training. We have welding. We have lots of different things that somebody might need, a lot in the healthcare professions available. Again, really hands-on, some virtual training, meeting the students where they are. This program is very exciting. It's tuition free for individuals that are income eligible. They have a broad array of academic advisement programs. They work with students after they get in and get their training to also help them get a job. So it's really kind of a mini school right at these educational opportunity centers. It can lead towards either getting directly employment after, or it might also lead to them deciding that they want to take the training that they've gone, build on that, and go and get a degree. So we're really trying to connect these students across their communities. We also have Attain Labs, Advanced Technology Training and Information Networking Labs. These are located not only within those educational opportunity centers that I talked about, but even more broadly, again, making sure that we have even larger coverage. We have 30 across the entire state. These are really high-tech labs. You walk in and you see the high-level computer technology that's located there. Anyone can come in and use these. So somebody that needs to get some training in a Microsoft product, they need to really learn a little bit more about Excel. They need to learn about QuickBooks. They need just some general digital literacy. They want to take some testing to determine where they are. All these courses are free. There's people that oversee some of the courses. It might be a taught course, or it might be you coming in and taking something that's online, but you want to go in a really quiet setting to go and learn these skills. This is somewhere you can just walk into and really get a sense of what's available to really upskill yourself or to get some basic skills you need to go out and get a job. Registered Apprenticeship is a program that's near and dear to my heart. This is a program that I personally oversee here within our office. And we really work very closely in New York State. We're a state-operated program. We work very closely with our New York State Department of Labor on these programs. So these are registered programs, and a registered apprentice is an individual that gets a job on day one. They would be hired by a company, and then they would be completing not only what we call related instruction. This would be kind of that really classroom study that someone needs to get the skills identified in a trade outline for classroom type things. Then they take that classroom learning and they bring it to their job. They're hired, they have a mentor on site that's working with them, and they're also, again, learning the very specific job so they can take what they learn in the classroom, put it right in hands-on, and continue to get really all the different skills that they need. This could be a 1-year program, it could be a 2-year program, it could go up to 5 or 6 years as they're really working through what's involved with learning those skills and becoming an official journey worker at the end. They then receive that journey worker card. They can take that not only to continue the work within their business, they could take it somewhere else within New York State that also recognizes these journey worker cards, or it's nationally recognized. So again, we don't want to have them leave New York, but if they do, we want to make sure that they can get hired very easily somewhere else. We work very closely with our campuses and the employers to really help make sure that we can align the skills in their community and they can take the training here. We have funding to help cover this training. We have folks that are out in the business community really talking to employers about what the different trades are that are available that might benefit the people that they have within their workforce or new people that they're hiring. You can see it's really cross across many different sectors. When people hear registered apprenticeship, the immediate thing that they think about is the building trades. So we certainly support these. We have a lot of training that we partner with the unions in our communities. They do a lot within their own offices, but some of those people might come to our classes, our companies, our colleges to get training right there as well. And then the non-building trades, we actually have funding to help cover the cost at our colleges, predominantly our community colleges. We're expanding more and more to work with our all of our 64 campuses. You can see again, people don't immediately think of a teacher being a registered apprentice, but they can. Childcare, brewer distiller is kind of a fun one that we actually worked. It was brewers and distillers working with our colleges to develop the training and then moving it even from the training to becoming a registered apprenticeship program. Lots of opportunity in this area. And the next thing that I want to talk about is lifelong learning. So not only I talked a little bit about kids coming and really experiencing what it is to be on campus, students and adults coming back. Maybe they need some kind of fun things, but we really want employers to think about colleges for upskilling employees that they already have at their companies. So maybe again, as I said, they need Excel training. They need some professional development. They need public speaking skills. We do a lot in way of like OSHA trainings, those kind of things. We have some funding for some of those programs. If an employer wants to send a cohort of students to get some of those trainings, we can help cover some of those costs. Or an individual might identify specifically that they want to come to a training that they see advertised within their community. So we really want to make sure that folks that even have a degree have an opportunity to come back and get some of those additional skills that they need to continue up in their career moving forward. Perfect. Another way that folks can get some of that trainings that they need is micro-credentials. SUNY has a very specific definition of micro-credentials. We really look at bundling classes together. Most of our micro-credentials tend to be credit-bearing. We're starting to look at some additional non-credit-bearing micro-credentials or bundles of non-credit and credit-bearing together. We have over 500 programs, again, in any area that you could possibly imagine: healthcare, business, and really we want to make these when they're developed, they are designed to be developed with an employer partner. So again, we want to make sure that what is being taught in these micro-credentials are meeting the needs of employers. They're recognized for that reason by employers. They're looking to really identify the skills and competencies that someone would need in that very specific area. We're also looking to make sure that they're stackable. If you walk into our office, you'll hear the word pathways over and over and over again. How can somebody from non-credit have a pathway to credit? How can somebody that starts with a micro-credential, that short chunk to kind of help them get the skills, how can they then use a pathway to get a full degree moving forward in that? We want to make sure that we're really focused on high demand areas as we're developing these programs. And again, they can be creative, but then they could also be customized. So maybe in the healthcare arena, one employer needs something a little different than another. Let's make sure that we can really come together and meet the needs within the community. And again, what's needed, obviously New York's very different in Long Island versus in Buffalo versus in upstate versus the capital. So what one micro-credential looks like in one training in one community might be a little different in the different communities because we really want them to meet the needs of the local employers. So with that, I've talked a lot about employers, but I'm going to turn it over to Chris to talk a lot more about some of our other employment engagement initiatives.
Denise, thank you so much. I cannot underscore enough. This is a real big piece of the new office is working with employers of all sorts, private sector, public sector, nonprofit sector, to ensure that both as a higher ed system, we're aligned with the needs of businesses and employers out there, but also making sure that what the experience is like for one of those employers to approach the system is consistent. I think that's a big one. Ultimately, our big goal is to make our system, right? This whole presentation is about how we can leverage all the different assets across the system to really bring to bear what we can offer in helping students. But we want to be easier to access. So making sure our system is more approachable, that beginning step for so many folks who, when they're saying, I think I need to find some new workers, or I think I need some training for my workers, that we can be that first step and really guide them, not having, because we have 64 campuses, 64 different relationships, if not more, across all of our campuses. I'll also say, just in lessons learned, right from the beginning, our real strategic approach has been to say, campuses all across our system have phenomenal existing relationships. We're not touching those. We're not looking to like re-up the system and like change anything. All we want to do is build on that and provide more opportunity for so many of our students. When Denise was talking earlier about our campuses covering the state, a huge chunk of our students come, for example, from New York City or down in the southern part of New York State where we have a much higher population, though they attend campuses in upstate New York. And they may be, for example, for an internship, returning home for the summer. So, what are our business connections like in different parts of the state so we can really account for that and accommodate all those different needs? We have stood up a brand new website, and we'll share at the end a link to all of our different websites and how we can access them. We have a new website all around how that approach from a business can be really straightforward. So, someone's interested in a wide variety of things. How do they kind of take that first step? They can take it on our website. And this is something that we've been sharing with QR codes and different marketing materials as well. We're trying to outline for all of our different prospective employer partners what the spectrum of engagement really can look like through a lot of different examples. Because I think when you think about, as an employer, especially a small business, approaching a university system, especially as large as ours, it seems daunting. Reality is, not so much. It can start out as a very simple, hey, I want to come, just table on campus. I want to take part in a job fair, for example. Maybe I want to join in some of the classes that are really relevant to the types of positions I'm looking to fill, just to have the opportunity to get in front of potential future employees, to students right now, and talk about what careers in my field look like. For employers, what we have found is, them taking that first step is often something that our campuses and professors on our campuses are looking for. So marrying those two opportunities together at a scale from the system perspective has been really, really helpful. So that's kind of like the entry point. We can then kick things up a notch. Maybe you want to do get a little more involved. Maybe it's hosting a series of workshops. Maybe it's coming in and inviting some groups from the campuses to actually come to your place of business to learn more directly about what that experience looks like. What about the skill sets? What's the working environment look and feel like? So we have a lot of different ways to get businesses more involved in our campuses. Maybe it's being part of an advisory board for looking at curriculum development for some of the different classes that our campuses are offering. And then certainly the most deep type of engagement opportunity would be running a full-on internship program at a scale. Maybe you're, committing to hire 20 or 30 interns during the summer across a couple of different business locations. Maybe you are looking to engage in some really intensive research opportunities with one of our campuses. Maybe you have a problem to solve and you can engage a business class or a marketing class in how to look for those different types of solutions. So really trying to share what different examples of success we've seen across all of our campuses are for different businesses as they're out there. One of the big parts of any success that we have found thus far, and I think if you ask Denise or I, going back in our past, where have we found the most success? It comes down to partnerships. So really making sure from the get-go that we have very intentionally outlined who are all the folks we need to be engaging with, especially this is a brand new office at the SUNY system level. Who should know about this? And so we've been on a roadshow, quite literally, and many instances, and then also just leveraging the past relationships we've had to share what opportunities look like, to share what, the changed perspective at SUNY is. So that's obviously, we talked a lot about the industry side of things, so all the different types of employer partners out there and the industry organizations, many of whom we have with whom many have worked over the years. Also all the different education partners, certainly our P12 partners, and we have lots of CTE programs all across the state, but ton of different education partners that are out there. Certainly state agencies, county partners, town partners, municipal agencies can be huge. Our state and local and federal lawmakers as well, just really important pieces to understanding our commitment to workforce development and upward mobility and how it falls within the broad spectrum of all things higher education. That it's not just, it can be, but not just that kind of classic 4-year degree. It's really a wide range of opportunity that we're providing people today very, very intentionally. Nonprofit organizations galore, certainly all the different associations that are bringing professionals together. It's interesting. We have, and we'll talk a little about it, but a free community college offering called SUNY Reconnect that's new this year for our community colleges. And one of the ways we've helped get the word out is by going after specific groups who represent industry partners who are employed in the different industries ultimately where we want people to go. So engineering, for example, is one of the areas where we're focusing. So we've gone after a number of different engineering groups at the national and state level who were really interested in learning more about partnering in those type of programs. And certainly all the different other types of, vendors who are really interested in being partners now or in the future. A lot of different business incubators galore, you name it. People should know about the kind of initiatives that we're looking to work on. The big question out there, though, is not just about, coming to the table and learning about us, but it's us saying to all of those partners, especially on the employer side, all right, like, what do you want? Like, what can we do together? What fun can we have? What things can we cook up together? And from my past, and I spent a number of years at the New York State Department of Labor in the past, as a state agency and as a state entity, we don't often ask those questions, maybe as nicely as we could be. So a way to say not only what do you want, what do you need, but how can we work together to really get solutions out there? And I think from the SUNY perspective, we have been and continue at a crazy scale to be doing that. And so I will jump in a little bit. We're taking part again this year in 2025 in annual surveys of both businesses and job seekers. And I'll share some of the data and findings from the past because I think it's really illustrative of the need out there. Certainly, this is New York State statistics, but at everywhere I go, and especially looking nationally at the data and sharing this with a lot of partners all across the US, New York State does not stand alone in any of the findings thus far. These are shared really not just nationally, but even globally. We've been able to work with international partners. These type of barriers for employers, needs of job seekers are persistent everywhere, certainly exacerbated by COVID in many instances. So I'll share with you the most recent survey, which was compiled in 2024. And it shows here from the business perspective, it is hard to find workers. And I'm sure this is not a novel concept. If you're in this space at all, you've certainly heard about this. Certainly, finding qualified workers is a major, major need in the minds of all sorts of employers. And by the way, these survey results represent public, private, and nonprofit employers really across the state in all types of industry sectors. Finding new workers is another top challenge for businesses, as well as retention. So this is really helpful because especially when you're looking to find industry partners, I get in front of a group like a Chamber of Commerce and I immediately start out with saying, it's hard to find workers, right? Never heard that one before. But that's a great way of both breaking the ice, but also building rapport. That the starting point for this conversation is not you telling me what you need and I already know these things, right? It's me going in and saying, I know your top challenges because we have lots of data. Let's talk about solutions now. And that's the kind of momentum of the conversation. Certainly things like inflation. I know tariffs are going to be huge part of the conversation. Government regulations, not a new thing in our results that we have seen, but this really helps, I think, spark a great conversation with businesses and employers of all types. We also ask questions around the type of skills that are lacking, both on the non-technical side, so like, soft skills, professional skills, and also the technical side. So I'll flip to that in a moment. But on the soft skill, power skill, professional skill, whatever you want to call it side of things, we know from employers, really, again, this is not a New York issue only, but across New York State, that they are missing at a scale really that is quite eye-opening. So a lot of these skills, the communication skills, the time management skills, working in groups, showing up on time, are highly sought after skills. And we know this from our data. I'm sharing the full 4 years worth here. A lot of these haven't shifted all that much. Still a huge need in the minds of employers. What we have done with these survey results is go to our institutions and say, hey, like these are really important skills to infuse. We've gone to P12 and say, hey, like kids in middle school and high school like need to be knowing about these skills, and when they're learning all these things, these need to be infused into all the different opportunities. One of the biggest things I hear from businesses often is, you show me someone, bring them in. They can show up on time. They want to learn. I'll teach them all the specific stuff. We hear that all the time. And I think this is really a big piece of that conversation, is this lack of different professional skills. So something we're really passionate about, something we're working a lot with our campuses on for sure. Denise mentioned our Attain Labs teaching digital literacy. That aligns very, very directly to one of the biggest needs out there in the minds of businesses, and that is digital literacy, basic computer use. Just being a real important need out there. Things like Excel or Word, data analysis for sure on the technical skills side remains a really persistent need all across the state. And again, cutting across all industries, there is not a job today, and I have thrown this out to many audiences. Give me an example of a job that hasn't had some level of digital infusion, and I've yet to hear one that hasn't. Every job is being impacted by technology. Certainly, artificial intelligence is having a lot of impact of jobs. And so working to infuse this. One of the things we've done at SUNY, and it will take effect next year, is we have a new initiative where every student across SUNY will have some sort of artificial intelligence training, both how to ethically use it, and how to make sure that when we're seeing things that we're filtering them appropriately for potential AI uses. So a lot of really interesting things happening across our campuses. This is a slide showing one of our initial questions we asked in the first year of the survey from 2021, but I think it's really interesting, and we're going to repeat this same question this year to compare. Now, this is in the real peak early stages of a lot of COVID craziness, when just turnover in organizations was high. But I think just as an example of what we did in New York State and how it relates to all the different training providers out there and partners out there, we asked all of the businesses who took part in our survey, and you saw it was thousands of them. Tell us the level of relationship you have with the various training providers and workforce partners all across the region for you. And so you can see here our public colleges, 4 years, and 2 year colleges, and our CTE programs had a stronger, compared to others, level of relationship. That's why they're up higher on that chart. Certainly, going down a little more, we have the private schools, we have high schools, our workforce boards. But at the bottom of the list, middle schools, libraries, key places where so many students have that kind of initial spark of career trajectory opportunity where they're learning the most. We're really missing a lot of industry infusion. So I think huge area of opportunity there. This is all put together, ranked on the level of strong relationship that different businesses identified with their different partners. Where I see this is the amount of red, very intentional, on the screen is just a huge need out there to reconnect. A lot of times that relationships were had in the past, but reconnect, if not connect for the first time, business and industry with all these different training providers. I know for a fact, and I do not say this naively at all, that it takes a lot of time and effort to make these relationships first and then maintain them over time and then come up with programmatic solutions to actually execute them, right? Not easy, but when you're looking for just ways to really make kind of huge change, this is a big area of need out there, and there are people on both ends of the telephone who are going to be very receptive to wanting to work together and partner. So very interesting. From the job seeker perspective, I have a few slides from the job seeker perspective. I think it's really interesting to talk about job seekers' perception of different barriers they're facing in their hunt for a new job or promotion. And so, according to thousands of job seekers, a lot of this is not going to surprise anyone, but certainly having the type of experience, the right kind of credential or degrees, having the right kind of education training, modern skills, etc., are the top barriers identified. Transportation, childcare needs, having access to a driver's license, those continue to come up on our survey results. But really, top of all of them are those things that I just mentioned. I will draw your attention though to the third and fourth one down. Fourth one down being age discrimination. So this is the either very real, discrimination due to age, or in many cases, when we drill down a little more in the data and some of the other answers, it's perception of age discrimination. So someone applying to 100 different jobs and not hearing back because of the systems, and saying, "It must be because I'm too young, must be because I'm too old," based on a number of different things. So we know age discrimination very, very real, but a lot of systems out there are giving people that really unfortunate perception issue. Then the third one down, and I think this is really one to underscore, which is having a professional network. And from the business perspective, we know that the number one thing that works when it comes to recruiting workers is filling your jobs with referrals from current employees, from your own professional networks, and that sort of thing, more than any other system. We see from job seekers reflected that same area of need. Job seekers saying, "Look, I got a new, I moved, I'm in a new type of field, or I've maybe been out of work for a while and wanted to reconnect." If you do not have that professional network, that can be a huge barrier to getting hired, even in an era with so much amazing technology for job search. And we have that. The ability to have someone really make that connection personally, I think, is going to be very much the future, and it is very much the present as well. So something to keep an eye on, but we see that a lot in data. And the last piece of survey data I will really happily share is we asked job seekers, what kind of training do you want? And this is what job seekers tell us. By and like huge margin, digital skills is the number one thing we see from a lot of job seekers. People wanted to be security guards, certainly. You see artificial intelligence down there at number 5. I think that's going to be a lot higher in this year because when this was conducted, it was March of 2024, March, April 2024. And AI was, a lot less of a like real thing in your face. And now it is so much so. I think part of everything, but so much of the skills that job seekers are interested in are aligned to a lot of the needs of businesses out there in the community. Everything from the different IT jobs, accounting, we need CDL drivers like crazy, the OSHA training, and I can read through all of these, but won't. But really, healthcare, nursing, certainly. But we've seen just a tremendous alignment out there across the world of work, from what businesses need to what job seekers are looking for. And again, this is a New York specific survey, but it is not dissimilar to what every state is seeing out there. And I think from the university system side, we say, "Hey, we are the ones who are out here. We have the solutions. We have training for every single one of these opportunities." Sometimes, depending on, your, income, for example, some of these are available at no cost in some of our educational opportunity centers. Our community colleges have all of these different training options available. And definitely our 4 years have often these training programs that are non-credit, that build into credit. They have degrees, sometimes even advanced degrees in a number of these areas too. So just, I think, a huge alignment out there, but often that push for someone to say, "Hey, like this is worth your time and investment to really pursue, because stepping up in your career will set you on a really good path and trajectory." So we will take the kind of remaining time and talk through some of our big priorities. And again, from the perspective of how are we making sure that we are really leveraging all the power of our campuses, the perspective of our campuses and expertise, the things and relationships they've been honing over years at the system level to really help our system comprehensively. So one of the, I think, biggest things that we're prioritizing doing is getting the word out that this office exists, getting the word out about the fact that we want to work together, certainly elevating a lot of the opportunities out there, certainly elevating a lot of the best practices that are out there, and then being very open that we're a new office, that we're working to bring people together. I will say I have yet to find even one iota of resistance as we're talking, which is I think really heartening and very candidly. And some of you may be experiencing some of this too. That kind of trepidation around like, is this a new thing? Are people going to want this? Are people going to like care? And I have found just the incredible power of getting out there to be just wonderful. That people really want to be part of this. I think people see the future looking very different than the past in a way that maybe they hadn't contemplated 5 or 10 years ago, and they're looking for solutions. They're looking for partners, and we, as in this brand new office, can be, I think, huge to that. Also, just coming across as non-threatening. Like we're not looking to get rid of programs. We're not looking to upset the apple cart by any means. We're looking to leverage what's happening, to share those best practices, to share models. One of the top questions I get, especially when I'm meeting with a lot of campus presidents, is there anyone else who is doing X, Y, or Z? And for us at our fingertips to be able to say, yeah, like that campus that, is 20 miles away or 50 miles away or a couple hundred miles away is doing that exact same thing you're looking to do. Oh, by the way, they've been at it for 10 years and they have these shared, results to look at and these best practices and these things that they tried that epically failed, but they, changed course and were able to, do different things. I think that is a really huge piece of what our office is trying to do. Also being very open in what we're trying to accomplish. And in kind of in the end couple slides, we'll talk a little bit about more about that, but really making sure that folks understand what we're doing, that from the get-go, they are part of our kind of broader solutioning. We have a strategic plan that we have created, but it was not created out of thin air. It was created exclusively or very much intentionally with partners at the table. We did lots and lots of listening sessions. We've been working at this for a long time. So trying to, build on the, shared knowledge that exists of failed attempts of really successful models, and then how do we scale? How do we put resources behind it? What are the real needs? I mentioned this free community college initiative called SUNY Reconnect. And this is, I think, a tremendous opportunity for so many folks. This is for those who are 25 to 55 to get access to a community college degree and an associate degree at no cost. So we cover tuition, we cover books, and some other expenses as well. And I think the opportunity here is one of these like rare, unprecedented moments where the governor and legislature came together and said, like, go make this happen and go change lives. And we are really working to do that. Part of that, though, has meant that how our community colleges and campuses in general serve adult learners cannot be the same way we've been doing it for 20 years. We have to make changes in our system. And so we put dollars on the street to help our community colleges in particular change that dynamic, change the perspective of folks coming to campus. So for example, not having anyone in career advisement, who is on campus at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock at night when you're there for classes. That can be really problematic. So what are the type of resources like that? I will say very candidly, I was a non-traditional student a number of years ago at a community college, and I remember that there were just darkened hallways and it seemed like no one was there and there was no food available, things like that. So our campuses are really rethinking and have been at this. How can we reshape what we're doing and what the perception looks like for so many of our students? Much like when we went to businesses and job seekers and asked them a lot of questions and then actually did stuff with that information as a state, we are now working with our campuses. Again, we have 64 of them to ask them a lot of questions around workforce development, around career development, around how their offices are even structured, the types of programs they offer, the types of money they're generating, the types of systems they're using. Collectively as a system, we have never really comprehensively taken a look at all of our different campuses and how they're doing workforce development and career development and advising, how they, manage the alignment of all these different programs. I will tell you, it is really fascinating how much amazing information we've been able to glean from campuses. We've been certainly doing a lot of one-off relationships over the years, so that's nothing new, but asking the same question to 64 different campuses and then being able to compare not only has been eye-opening to us, it's been of great interest to us as a system to be able to say, like, what does it look like on this campus versus this campus versus this campus? Also, just in visiting a lot of campuses, learning about the models that are out there and then being able to elevate and then have at our fingertips what so many of those examples look like, because there's just tremendous interest from all of our different campus leaderships. We've also launched, and it's on the website that I'll share at the end, we've launched an employer interest form. So I mentioned making the system more approachable from the outside, but how do we, especially for employers, make that first step easier? So I know it sounds so fundamental and basic, but just putting a QR code up on the screen when you're presenting to a chamber of commerce and saying, hey, fill out this form and we'll have someone contact you and talk through all those different ways that you could potentially engage with one of our campuses. Often they have a great relationship with a campus already, but they're like, you know what? I've never really been able to approach this other campus that's maybe a little bit further away. I've had more better relationships with this one campus. So especially from the system perspective, that's a big way we can help. And then turnover happens, and people lose those relationships. They fade over time. They also change from the business perspective. So for campuses, being able to leverage our office to help kind of connect to or reconnect to a lot of those industry partners has been a really monumental thing. I think the last big priority for our office overall is that we're trying to really own this space. We're trying to make sure that when it comes to all things workforce development, not that we are the only player in town, not that we are the sole keeper of all information, but that this is our space and that we could be really helpful in this space. And then bringing us to the table early, we're going to make a lot of effort if you are interested in having us as a partner to be a great partner for you, and to really kind of be there as much as possible for all the different partners. And I think that has been a really big shift as well. It's not just kind of happening in the background. It is, we were leading in this space. We're very vocal in this space. We're not scared to, to question things and processes that have held progress up in the past. We want to be really driving the conversation. And I think so far we've been really quite successful. So, a couple other big initiatives, and then I'll wrap up with those last couple messages as I promised. But a couple big initiatives that I wanted to just highlight for you, and then Denise will take the next couple. The first is we have taken on, I think, a real important subject as part of a national set of working groups all around return on investment and credentials of value. And the goal here is to not question, the power of what degrees are and look like. It's questioning essentially, and not questioning, but more like backing up. How do we better tell the success stories that come along with getting the wide range of credentials that our system offers? So, everything from the non-credit program that really can change someone's life to a full doctorate degree and a law degree at one of our universities. Maybe it's research that's in, looking into cancer or something like that. There's certainly value that comes along with that. But coming up with, what the framework looks like for the different perspectives, considering the wide range of programs that we have. So that's a really important initiative that's underway, especially when we're looking at a lot of the federal pressures that are out there. Another big area is around the sources of funding that serve all of our system, campuses, and partners. And how do we appropriately leverage all of them to make sure that we're not doing anyone a disservice by leaving money on the table? So working with some framework that each region can use to investigate, and then best practices for real braiding of funding and making that work. So with that, Denise, I'll let you take the next two.
Great, thank you. You heard me talk earlier about our educational opportunity centers and some of the programming that happens at our community colleges. What we found is that sometimes there is overlap of those programs, and we've really, as you heard, the educational opportunity centers are free of charge to individuals if they qualify, whereas in our community colleges frequently are being asked to generate revenue based on maybe similar programs. So what we're trying to do really is look at how those programs can align better. Are there opportunities for partnerships? Maybe if somebody is coming to a community college and they aren't quite college ready, could they maybe go back to an educational opportunity center and start to learn some of those skills? Could they maybe get their GED there and then come back to the community college? Or if the program is a little different, they have a welding program both at the college and at a local educational opportunity. Say, well, let's understand what the differences are. And maybe a student can be served a little better at one versus the other. So that's we're really looking at how we can align those programs a little more strategically now that we're both here in the same office. And finally, this is a project that I could spend hours on, but we don't have that. So our non-credit student information management system. This is a project where currently the data that we collect on non-credit students is the number of registrations, not the number of individuals that are taking that training. So if one person took two trainings, they would count twice. And we really, through the initiative of our chancellor, I really want to understand how many non-credit students we're serving, the number of completions we have. And then Chris has talked a lot about our partnership with Department of Labor. We really want to talk with them about what wages are these students earning after they complete these programs. System-wide, we have, as you can imagine, lots of different systems taking place at each of our different colleges. Some are using the same student information system, some are using a different one, and they're each collecting this data in a different way. So we have now a commitment that we are going to put together a system so we can really track this at an individual level. So lots more is going to be coming on that in the coming years.
Awesome. Thanks, Denise. And with just a minute or so to spare, I think it'd be really good to end on one of the real fundamental underpinnings of our office and what we're working toward. It is not what is on your screen right now, don't worry. But this used to be the past, or what we perceived in the past of you go to high school and you get your, go to college, get your 4-year degree, and you have a career and you don't have to ever get trained again. And we all know that is false, right? That never really was the model. And certainly today, with all the infusion of technology and automation and artificial intelligence, jobs are changing, skills are changing. So we have to account for that. And I think as a system, we are very much in the best place to do that. This is very much reality. This concept that I finish high school and then I can go on and be an entrepreneur. And then maybe I take some classes and learn more. Maybe I do that registered apprenticeship program. Maybe I do go on to my degree, and maybe it's an advanced degree. Or maybe if I'm going to be in the military, I can take advantage of some additional, tax credits toward different programs that are available to me. But really, the message here is for those who may have missed one of those steps along the way, traditionally from the distant past, there is a space for you at SUNY. There is a real opportunity for true upward mobility across our system, and we stand very firm in that. And I will say, I have had absolutely no pushback at all on this message. I think it was something I was most fearful of, is that people would be like, oh, you're taking away from what we traditionally do. And the opposite's true. I think people are really realizing that the future is being incredibly open to all the different pathways toward the incredible opportunities we provide for individuals. And that's really heartening. So with that, I just want to say thank you to everybody who took part today. Here's a link to our website. We have our contact information on the website. You can absolutely reach out to us there. And we just really, really appreciate all of you taking the time to stick with us this far. And I hope that the conference has been going well. And just thanks to all the organizers for making this possible.
Thank you all.